My name is Gitte Jensen, and I'm the Research Director at NIS Labs. We have conducted clinical research on the LifeWave X39 patch, and I'm speaking to you today to present our results. My background is in immunology. I have a PhD from University of Aarhus in Denmark. I went on to work as a postdoc in cancer biology at University of Alberta in Canada. And I became an assistant professor at McGill University, studying systems biology involving both immune cells and stem cells. And I'm the founder and the research director at NIS Labs. I have worked with research on natural products for over 30 years. We use mainstream tools to ask questions about unusual methods for supporting health. My passion is to find truth in ancient traditional healing methods and to help talk about them in words that modern science can embrace. To do this, I founded our lab, NIS Labs. At NIS Labs, we study the mechanisms that allow our immune cells to travel around in our body to protect everything. Here's a drawing of some sleepy cells, both inside the blood vessel and in the tissue. There are some NK cells and some B cells, some T cells, and some macrophages. This sleepy picture can change pretty rapidly. X39 helps the immune system to be alert and happy. We want the cells moving to protect our entire body in the blood, the skin, the gut, and all parts of us. And we want the cells to communicate. We also study the processes inside ourselves of making cellular energy. Our health is not a simple on-off switch. We know that our overall health is a result of endless interconnected processes, starting with cellular energy, supporting our immune system's alertness, communicating in the body with nerves and chemical messengers, and then a feedback loop with anti-inflammatory effects. Based on how complex our body is, I was very excited when I learned about the X39 patch, a tiny little thing that makes light, not just on its own, but only when it's applied to the skin. When you look at the patch, you don't see the light. I knew we had to study this. We conducted a clinical trial to document what happens within the first few hours after you put on an X39 patch on the back of your neck. The results were very clear, and these results is what I will be presenting to you today. First, I want to tell you about how we did this study, where each person served as their own control. Each study participant came for 2 clinic visits and used the X39 patch on one visit and a placebo patch on another visit. We took blood samples immediately before applying a patch and then at 1 and 2 hours later. People were sitting quietly and resting and doing it in the same way, both on the X39 day and the placebo day, and they rested calmly in a quiet room between the blood draws. Now, the placebo patch looked exactly like the X39 patch, but did not contain the things that make light when it is applied to the skin. And the study was randomized. This means that different participants used the X39 patch on the first visit and placebo on the second visit, and other participants used the placebo on the first visit. The X39 patch and the placebo patch had 2 different numbers written on the back, but neither the participants nor the clinic staff knew which patch was which. Now, while we know that we can measure changes in the blood after consuming natural products, we were not sure what was going to happen when we applied the X39 patch to the skin. We hoped to see some changes, and we expected that they would be mild. Our results were amazing. We had 2 surprises, one that had to do with cellular energy and another that had to do with reduced inflammation. Before I tell you more about these findings, I need to introduce you to those 2 topics. Let's talk about energy first. In order to talk about the ways we documented changes in cellular energy in the X39 study, let's look at the parts inside each of our cells that make energy, the mitochondria. Inside every cell in our body, we have bubbles, tiny little bubbles that are called mitochondria. This is where energy is being made. They are literally the powerhouses of our providing energy for our entire body. The mitochondria have a unique machinery inside, similar to a conveyor belt, that's called the electron transport chain. So that electricity that is being transported is where I have these little lightning bolts on this drawing. They use this electron transport, they use this to supercharge energy into molecules called ATP. So the mitochondria are subcellular energy factories. The ATP is loaded with energy that can be sent out into the body and give energy to our muscles, our brain, and everything else that burns energy for our body to function. So as part of the X39 study, on all clinic visits, we took the blood samples into the laboratory and we studied the mitochondria. And already after 1 hour of wearing an X39 patch, the mitochondria were larger than 1 hour after wearing a placebo patch. This process of getting larger mitochondria is called mitochondrial biogenesis, and we know it can happen within hours after consuming certain nutraceutical supplements. However, we had no idea that this type of change happens and can be measured in the blood 1 hour after putting on an X39 patch. And how it happens, we don't fully understand yet, since we don't fully understand the code for how our cells communicate with light inside the body. Now let's talk about inflammation. Inflammation is related to aging and accelerates aging, and the loss of cellular energy also accelerates aging. Also, in terms of regulating inflammation, the X39 patch worked quickly. The anti-inflammatory marker IL-1RA increased rapidly and was increased at 1 hour, and the pro-inflammatory cytokine IL-8 decreased. This change was rapid, creating a boost of cellular communication that helped regulate inflammation. This wave of cellular communication also involved reduced levels of C-reactive protein, another inflammatory blood marker. After that initial boost of anti-inflammatory activity at 1 hour, we observed that at 2 hours, the levels of C-reactive protein were reduced. So it seems that applying the X39 patch to the skin initiates measurable changes that spreads throughout our whole body. It's like adding a drop of water into a silent lake, and the drop starts ripples, and the ripples expand outward. And it starts waves of orchestrated changes in the body involving rapid increase in energy and rapid regulation of inflammation. Now let's shift gears a little. There was a second part to this clinical trial. After the first part of the clinical trial was done, all the participants then used the X39 patch every day for 4 weeks. And this part of the clinical trial allowed us to see what happened with daily use over time. We studied the blood cells after 1 day and 1 week and 4 weeks. And this further helped solidify that applying an X39 patch has effects that we can quantify and that we can discuss scientifically. And the X39 patch works long-term. Already after 1 day of using X39, the cells were able to maintain a higher energy production under stress. The small umbrellas here and here over each mitochondria show that they're protected from stress. The green circles show that the size of the mitochondria is protected under stress, And the purple lightning bolts illustrate that the electrical charge inside the mitochondria are protected under stress. The mitochondria can continue to make more energy and more ATP. We tested many other blood markers in all the blood samples in the X39 study, and we saw additional evidence of ongoing changes and adaptation when using the X39 patch. Examples include the anti-inflammatory marker IL-1RA that was increased at 1 week, and the pro-inflammatory markers IL-8 and TNF-alpha were decreased at 1 day and 4 weeks. So when the X39 patch is used daily, the body experiences daily waves of adjustment to cellular energy, cellular resilience, and reduced inflammation. Every time a new X39 patch is applied, a fresh wave of adaptation and boost of energy happens. Now, as I'm winding down my presentation, a reminder to all of us. For us to age gracefully in good health, we need to tend to our body like a garden. We need to clean up the dead leaves, tend to the flowers, keep the soil hydrated and nutrient-rich. The use of the X39 patch generated results showing orchestrated waves of events, starting with mitochondrial biogenesis and continuing with increased mitochondrial membrane potential, anti-inflammatory markers, reduced pro-inflammatory biomarkers, and an increase in energy. I thank you for the opportunity to share with you our scientific results from the clinical trial on wearing the X39 patch. And congratulations to David Smith and the LifeWave team for your contributions to natural and gentle support of health and wellness.